You didn't abandon Surge. Surge abandoned you.
This is the perfect RIA, in case you didn't know. Bringing you all the strategies to help your business grow. Are you happy? Are you satisfied? Are you hanging on the edge of your seat? Sit back and listen in while you feel the beat, yeah. Another myth bites the dust.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Perfect RIA podcast. I'm your co-host, Matthew Jarvis, and with me, as usual, the man, the myth, the legend, Micah Shalansky. Micah, how are you today, my friend?
Jarvis, I'm doing fantastic. We are outside enjoying some beautiful sunshine right now, which is fantastic. Sitting next to a fireplace together. We've had a great time so far and decided to jam out on some more content. I mean, this is something that we really enjoy. And also something that I think was all how the TPR started, right? Kind of talking about these podcasts and going through these things. But one of the things I love to chat about is dispelling myths that are out there. And I think we have a great opportunity to chat about that today.
Yeah, and this is both something that we're passionate about, we have fun with, but it's also, there were so many myths, Mike, I don't want to speak for you, there were so many myths that I believed when I was a starting advisor, right? I believed that if I had a fancy brochure, that would make all the difference. If I bought just the right seminar packet, that would make all the difference.
If I advertised just for this one company, it would make all of the difference.
That's right. If I drew my insurance buckets just right, that would make all the difference, right? So there's these things that are very seductive. If I ask for referrals the right way, but what the reality is success is not ever complicated, but it is very difficult. Yes. And it's the core things, right? It's the blocking and tackling. And what we see happen, even if you're adapting a correct strategy, and we're going to talk specifically about surge meetings. In fact, let's even just talk about surge meetings. Even if you're following a proven strategy, if you jump into it too deep, if you jump into it without understanding it, it's not going to work.
So here's something that I've seen with other advisors, Jarvis. Let's talk about surge meetings, right? Because surge is a phenomenal way to add massive value to you and to your clients. And I forget, I think his name was John. Forgive me, I can't remember his name, but he said, they call surge their value cycle, right?
Yes.
Or the value time.
Yep.
And I thought it was a great way to kind of look at it, saying, and that's really what it is, right? Surge is, in essence, bring in your clients to be with them all at a certain time, and that's their planning cycle that they're going to go through and get all of their planning done. And that's really the way to look at it. Now, some big things that can go wrong with surge, and one of them is when you bite off more than you can chew. And I've seen this happen. And so what they'll do is they'll say, hey, look, well, Micah's doing this, Jarvis is doing this. Well, I'm just going to jump in and copy the same calendar. And at glance, it kind of makes sense, right? Hey, I want to do what works. Mm-hmm. Here's these other guys that are doing this thing. I'm going to jump right in. And I've seen advisors make this mistake time and time again. And so this is my word of caution. Hit the brakes. Yes. What you're saying, and this isn't trying to pat us on the backs, is saying, you know what? I've ran a little bit from, my car inside when it was raining. And since I've done that one or two times, then I'm just going to go run a marathon next week. And I think it'll be fun. I don't need to do any training. Don't need to do any other warm-ups. I've ran before, and therefore I can run a marathon. Now, let me say this. I do not run. I am not enrolling in a marathon. Right? This would not be a good plan. And neither is it to go from zero surge and not having that proficiency, endurance, ability, etc., to going to a huge surge cycle where we meet in 35, 40 clients in a 1 week period in time.
Yeah, I don't want to beat these analogies to death, but a couple other come to mind, right? If you're going skiing or snowboarding, right, just because you've done the bunny hill or just because you rode the lift to the top does not mean that you should tackle the double black diamond. Now, again, just because you saw someone else rip down the double black diamond, you think, oh, all they did was carve back and forth. Surely I can do it. It is not the same.
It's different.
But for whatever reason, specifically with surge, people say, well, I read about it. I saw, Jarvis talk about it. I saw the podcast on it, whatever the case may be. I'm going to go do this thing full blow. Stop. Mike, as you said, pump the brakes because you're going to get burned. Yeah. And we have now seen a case, maybe two cases where somebody has gotten burned from jumping in too far, too fast, not understanding the fundamentals.
Yeah, and I'll say this, when advisors join my team, right, that's definitely one thing that we come out and say is that when you're coming on, you are not going to be doing 7 to 8 appointments a day like I am doing. And this isn't a punishment for you. You're going to start off with 3 to 4 appointments because every single appointment is a performance.
Yes.
And you are robbing the client from that experience and getting value if you are not ready for it. So again, we got to crawl sometimes before we can walk.
Yeah, and some of it's going to come back to the type of clients you have, the type of service model you have, your own stamina in meetings. Micah, you do almost twice as many meetings in a week as I do during surge.
Yeah.
Because I'm doing, doing 15.
No.
Yeah, 2 meetings. I'm doing 15 to 18 meetings, 6 a day. So I guess 18 meetings, 20 meetings a week, and you're doing
35 to 40. Yep.
Yeah, and I've tried pushing it that far, and I started burning out pretty bad. Maybe I'm just being a wimp, but I just try to be intentional about it. What we've seen, though, is advisors that say, hey, I'm going to go straight to 30, 40 meetings, and they don't have a system in place, and they don't have the stamina to do it, and then they burn out, and they think that the fault is surge, whereas the fault is their own.
Yeah, the fault is their own, right?
Yes.
And also, this isn't a competition to say, can you do more meetings? And Micah, look, spoiler alert, so many people can.
Yes.
Look
Yeah.
at doctors. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, dude,
Every doctor, yes.
Yeah, what I do in a week, they're doing in a day, right?
Yeah.
With 15-minute appointments. So this isn't that competition. This is about intention. I love what you said, Jarvis. I'm going to pull that out a little bit. It was intentionally solving for what delivers the most value to your clients and to you. And that's what Surge is. And I've failed to meet with someone who can really articulate why Surge doesn't add value, because it sets so much things up for success. Now, just because something doesn't add value or does add value doesn't mean you can't screw it up. And that's what I've seen happen when people say it doesn't add value. They've really just screwed it up.
Yeah, and let's take some extreme ownership here for not better articulating to
Sure.
the nation what Surge means, right? So Surge meaning does not mean X number of meetings a week. What it means is being intentional about when you schedule a client, understanding that time blocking is universally more effective. It means saying, hey, these are the days where I'm going to do meetings, days, weeks, months. These are the days, weeks, months where I'm not going to do meetings. That in its essence is Surge.
100%. And what is not Surge? I do 2 big Surge cycles. Now, please know what I said. 2 big Surge cycles. So some people hear that and say, Micah, you're only meeting with your clients twice a year, which for the most part, that is correct. Most of my clients fit inside of those 2 big Surge cycles, right? So if a client meets with me, let's say they meet with me in April, and then some life-changing event happens in May, there's an illusion out there that I'm not going to talk to them until October. That is incorrect.
Yeah.
That is false, 100%. What Surge is doing is it's putting 90 to, dare I say, 95% all of my meetings in a specified time, which we're enabled to deliver the most value to clients. Now, if you don't think it's valuable, we'll go back to the assembly line, right? Why did Henry Ford make automobiles so much more efficiently and lower the price dramatically? Is because every day on the assembly line, that person was doing the same task again and again and again. If you build a car individually and you have to learn all these other tasks, the cost is so much more and it takes so much longer. That's an essence of Surge right there.
Yeah, the book Deep Work by I believe
Yes.
Cal Newport
Newport,
goes
yeah.
on this at length, right? That doing the same task, even mental tasks, even highly, whatever we're going to call those, that is far more effective. Another myth, Micah, that has come with Surge is that it only works if you have some like very narrow complexity clients. If you have just like cookie cutter clients,
Right.
Again, not the case. I'm working with a client right now. He's doing a multi-million-dollar business transaction. And yes, we're meeting outside of Surge because again, that's how it's designed. If a major event comes up, now even that one, we're trying to, so again, we always try to steer towards our primary Surge of spring and fall. If that doesn't work, then we steer towards our once a month mini Surge, not counting vacation months. And then if that doesn't work, then we're going to say, all right, great, when is the next available time? What most advisors do is say, oh, you have a question about anything in the world? How about Tuesday? How about Thursday?
Right.
How about next Wednesday? Why not Sunday at 10 p.m.?
Right, or 2 a.m.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, all of those things. So everyone is already time blocking in some
Yes.
essence. The difference is we're taking this to the next level to be hyper intentional about it. The other thing that this really does and why it's more valuable for clients is that it allows your team to be ready for those appointments and to be ready to get things done. But it also allows your team not to be in appointment mode where they can do projects. Because guess what? When we meet with client, work gets created. And if you've been through Surge, which so many of our nation has, and it is a lot of work that's there. And which is phenomenal because you can get that amount of work done, then you can pivot to something else. We got several people that are changing BDs or exiting BDs and doing RAs. And they've come back to us and says, there's no way I could have done this unless I was in Surge. Now, that's a great compliment. In reality, we've been doing this long before Surge was created,
Yes.
right? However, this makes it so much easier because of how you're going to communicate to clients and how you're going to deliver value with them.
Micah, another myth I hear, and this is just pure head trash, and it comes from, there's this very small group in the industry that gets their real kicks out of trying to like poke holes in the perfect RA instead of working. Poking holes in the perfect RA, by the way, is playing office 100%. This idea, well, I'm hurting my clients. That was actually someone's words. My clients will not be hurted. Well, hang on. So when your clients, when they go to book an airplane flight, they say, to heck with the flight schedule. I will not leave at 6:30. I will not be herded like a sheep. I want to leave at 6:43. No, of course not. Right? When they call whatever hotel they're going, I do not care if you have rooms available or not. I will not be governed by the constraints of your room.
Wait, what about that appointment? So by herded, does that mean they get to set any appointment time they want at any time? I'm going to meet you with you. I have had clients say, hey, look, I go to work early in the morning. I want to meet at 6 a.m. I've had people say that.
Sure.
But my answer is no.
Yeah, people can request whatever they like.
Right. My first appointment starts at 7 a.m. That's a virtual appointment. In person is 8:30. This is how my schedule works.
Yeah.
Right. So it doesn't matter that it's going to be there. Now, and I guess it's just all semantics and how you're viewing this, right? You could view this as a bad thing or view it as a really good thing. I got to say, when we move clients over to this, there is no client that like blew up about it, because also we're going to work with clients to make sure things can get done. But when you have a full clientele, which is what we have, several hundred clients that we do, 500 for the firm-wise that we're doing, we have to do things in a way in order to streamline to add value. Back when I had 10 clients, 2 clients, et cetera, it was one person could totally run that show, right?
Yeah,
and you
sure.
could do all that stuff because you had nothing else to do. Because you have 5 clients,
That's right.
Or if you have 50 clients and 2 advisors, that's 25 each, right? You have nothing else to do in that aspect of it because it doesn't take that long. But as you start to scale, you need to have more efficient processes in place. And Surge is one of those efficient processes you can choose to put in.
Yeah, I would argue not when you start to scale. It's if you want to scale. We always get
Yes.
caught in this myth, Surge
Yes.
and otherwise. I'll do this when. When I have more clients, I'll do this. I'll raise my fee when. I'll do value when. No. You have to start with this. And so, Micah, let's talk with, if you're not doing Surge at all, like you've heard about it, you've heard good things, there's 3 people you heard bad things from, whatever the case may be, how do you get started on Surge without going straight to the double black diamond?
Yeah, so this is all in essence time blocking.
Yes.
Right? So what we're doing is we're being intentional about when we're going to do meetings. So an easy way to do it is, when are you not going to do meetings?
Great place to start.
Right? The great place to start. Great place to start is saying on Fridays, I will do no appointments on Fridays. I do no appointments after 4 p.m., right? You do no appointments on Mondays or Fridays, right?
Correct.
Monday's your planning day, then you do your Surge, and then Friday you're off, right? So what is that? So I would start with first governing, restricting inside of here. What are the time that you don't want to meet with clients? That doesn't mean you're not working, by the way, especially during Surge, right? When I wrap up with my appointments on Friday, because I don't do any appointments on Friday afternoon, that's my time to prep and get everything ready for the next week.
Yeah, another thing I would say, early steps, right after you've blocked off Monday and Friday, and ideally maybe blocked 1 week a month where you're not doing meetings, is to have set calendar times, ideally governed by like a Calendly or Acuity, right? Advisors fall in this real productivity hole where they say, hey, does Tuesday at 2 work? No, Tuesday at 2 doesn't work. What about Wednesday at 1:47? Well, shoot, that's going to ruin 2 appointments. Well, I guess if that's okay. Nope, if you look on our calendars, it says at the top of the bar, and of course in Calendly, meeting times are at 8:30, 10, 11:30, 1, whatever they are, they're set in there. And so it makes Colleen's job easier, my office manager, when someone calls and says, hey, I want to meet with Matt. Great, Matt has time on Tuesday and Wednesday at 3 p.m. and at 4:30. Which one works best for you? And if they say, well, again, Micah, to your example, I want to come in at 3:15. Oh, sorry, he's available at 3 or 4:30. Which one would you like?
Yeah. I mean, that's about it. And I do have one client that, she generally likes a 3 o'clock appointment slot just because when it's her wraps up, and we know she's coming from across town and she's normally about 5 minutes late for the appointment. Now, does that mean the appointment runs to 4:05? No, the appointment ends at 4 o'clock. And she knows that, right?
Yep.
So these are just one of these things that are saying, you know what, no, you weren't here at 3 o'clock, all of a sudden you're fired, right? That's not it. This is the appointment time. And then we just gauge it because we know of what the circumstances are, which are real, for how that's going to be set up. But again, we're not determining every single day what it's going to be. And that just becomes efficient. Before Christian came on, I had 200 households that I was getting in a 6-week period in time. Everyone can't choose their own appointment slot. I wouldn't see everybody. And when I did, I would never have time to see all of my clients in any reasonable fashion.
Micah, another concern that comes up with Surge is, and maybe we're spreading between issues here, but saying, hey, my clients are too complex or there's too many variables to streamline. And I think this is a trap. Again, it's not directly related to Surge, but it ties in there. There's this trap of making it more complicated than it needs to be, right?
Yes.
There's some things that every client needs. In fact, it's largely the same, right? Now, they may have different stock options. They may have different business valuations. At the end of the day, there's the core areas of financial planning, right? They need a risk management plan. They need an income plan, these different things. The more of those you can streamline, and here's the magic, the more you can streamline, the better your client experience will be.
100%. Right? And we've seen this just across the board. And when I work with other advisors, it's the same thing. So our financial planning process is 5 stages: estate planning, risk management, retirement income, investments, and taxes. And that's the order in which we go through it. And our team, that's the order in which they go through with all of the clients. And it's amazing. When we violate that process, things get missed. Man, I wish I could say they didn't. I really did. But that's reality, right? theory is, man, I'd love to work with a client and do whatever they want to do to build their plan and go through this thing. And that has some illusion out there that this would be amazing, but that's not reality. And reality is when I work with a client, I tell them we have a process of success, and this is how we're going to go through the process. And by the way, we meet with clients only at certain times of year because these are the most beneficial for you. And here's why, right? And I also explained too, we take time off. I said, look, I got young kids. I love to spend time with my family. I got to make sure I'm doing all of the work that you need so I can take that time off with my family. Therefore, here's how our meeting schedules are going to work.
Yeah, and so this ties into this illusion that complexity equals value. I also see this with investment models. Hey, I hand select investment models for each one of my clients individually. Are you insane? That doesn't make any sense. Was there like an investment that you held off on? Well, I mean, I gave Dave and Sue this one, but Bob and Mary, I'm going to pick them an even better. No, there's no need for that. Sure, is there need for some customization? Maybe a client has a tax situation that's different, or something else that doesn't come to mind. They're trying to offset a concentrated position. But again,
maybe they got a legacy asset, inherited assets excluded,
sure.
right? Or we have an extra cash because they're going to buy something, right? So there's those things that will come up, but I'm not creating a completely different investment model for each one of those. I'm saying, okay, great, here's your UPS stock because of basis or whatever, or legacy asset that we don't want you to sell it. Yep. Great, that's an excluded asset, probably in a separate account. And now here are your other accounts, and here's how we're going to manage these in our current models.
Totally. Because again, you custom picking each one, that's not bringing value. That is 100% plain office.
Yeah. And this goes back to, when are things going to be the best? And one of the things that I love about Surge is with Surge, it really allows us the time to do that. Because in my Surge meetings, I know what our models are. I know what our setup is. We can go with our clients. We can deliver tons of value to our clients. And then I can pivot from that and saying, okay, great. Interest rates are going up, right? Have you reviewed your money markets lately? This is a conversation we have with our investment team of just saying, great, it probably makes time to switch money markets or look at those things. Well, this isn't something that I want to think about in the middle of Surge meetings. This gives me time outside of then to review these, make these decisions, etc. Otherwise, if I was doing this in between meetings and every day I had 5 to 6 meetings, when do you have time to do that?
The other thing I run into with advisors who push back on Surge is if we start to peel back the layers and I say, cool, let's pull out a list of your clients. Let's say you have 100 clients. Let's go down the list and tell me when was the last time you reviewed all of their estate documents?
Yes.
When was the last time you reviewed all of their beneficiaries? When was the last time you reviewed all of their long-term care plans? And listen, I'm not doing that for all my clients. No, let's just write the dates down. And by the way, I would encourage listeners to do that. When was the last time you reviewed a long-term care plan for every single client? A tax plan for every single client. If you're not doing a Surge type streamline, I promise that you have clients that's like, well, it's been a few months or a few years or many years. If you don't have a system for it, it does not happen.
And we're not saying this in cast in stones. What we're saying is we've been there. We've done this. And that's the reason we've come into this Surge cycle of saying this is a better way to consistently deliver value. And one of the things, again, my clients just love it, is I tell them every 2 years we rebuild your financial plan. When you're first on board, we go through all 5 of these steps in the first year. We build everything out. And then I let all my clients know you'll fall into the normal planning cycle with the rest of our clients. So that means if we just wrapped up estate planning and the next planning cycle is estate planning, we're going to chat about it again. We're not going to redo it. And I was like, but the reason I do this is I don't want to miss making sure your information's updated. And clients love that.
The Perfect RA challenges financial advisors to answer the question, what would you do if you weren't afraid? Surround yourself with financial advisors who share your common values and goals towards success. The advisor is you. The time is now. Don't be like most people who fail to take action and achieve their dreams. Go online today at theperfectraa.com and decide what type of financial advisor you plan to be.
Something else, a myth or a misunderstanding, Micah, that I found is you and I have sort of created this idea that Surge dates are fixed every single year, as if it was the 11th commandment. It must be March 5th to this date.
It was on the backside of the tablets.
That's right. It was on the backside. And to my team's chagrin, sometimes these dates are flexible up until the point where clients are scheduled, right? Once clients are scheduled, these are no longer flexible dates. We're not going to reschedule clients short of an emergency. But in an example of your life changes, a trip comes up, or if you have a niche of clients, it's something new, a new tax law comes down, something new from their company, Mass Lives. It is, by the way, totally okay for you to add a Surge or to pivot your Surge or to change the theme of your Surge. Again, the whole idea is how do I streamline 80 to 90% of this?
Yes. Now, one of the things in an enterprise model, when you have multiple advisors, you really need to think about that. If you're saying, hey, there's this awesome trip that I want to go on and it's going to disrupt Surge, how does that disrupt it for the rest of your team, right? And saying, okay, well, I'm going to do my surge a little bit later because I want to do this other thing. Everyone else has started their surge sooner. I have just screwed our team because now our team, instead of a 4 to 6 week surge, now they're doing an 8 to 12 week surge, right? Then that doesn't give them the time to make sure they're being successful to get other projects done. So as you build in enterprise fashion, again, it's not bad. It's just, this is different. You really got to look at it and make sure you're operating together.
This is another place where I've seen advisors get stuck when they're transitioning to surge and they don't position it correctly to clients. So if clients are used to, hey, anytime I think of Jarvis, I can just call him and I can go see him the next day, that's going to take some resetting of expectations. And it has to be better than, hey, I just feel like doing it this way. You know what, Mr. and Miss Klein, I want to take more vacation, therefore you can't see me for a while. No, we've got to position it in the best interest of clients. Why? Because it is in the best interest of clients. Mr. and Mrs. Client, we want to see you in the spring around tax time so we can make sure that all of your information is correct and that we have things set up for the year. We want to see you again in the fall before the holidays to see if there's anything we need to wrap up before the year ends. Of course, if something comes up in between then, we'd be glad to meet. But otherwise, we're going to try to meet primarily around March, April, and October, November. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, really, really important. And as things change, clients will bring it up to you, right? I've had one client, when I stopped answering the phones or just taking calls right away, they'll come to me and says, Micah, I remember when you used to answer the phone, it was great. I could call and I could get my answer right away.
Yep.
And Yes, I totally get that, right? And I had 10 clients at the time. And as I grow, one of the things that I have to look at is what is the best service for all of my clients. So I let them know. I said, you know what? Yeah, I remember that too. And as we grow, one of the things that I realized is that when I was doing that, I was dropping the ball and not getting back to all my clients. And that's just not okay. And I don't want that to happen to you. That's the reason we put this communication policy in place, that when you call, my team gets your information, they get it documented, they get us a scheduled time to talk to make sure I don't drop the ball and I get back to you with that information. Now, I hate to say that was reality, but it just is. At some point, as you grow, that's going to happen. And if you wait to solve the Jarvis, back to your point you said earlier, if you wait to solve this when it's a problem, you've created problems. Why don't you just avoid them? If I see a giant mud puddle there, I got two options here. One, I could go walk right through it and get cleaned up on the other side. That is an option. Or I could walk around the mud puddle and not need to get cleaned up, right? At the end, I'm still clean on the other side, but which direction do I want to go? I want to avoid those.
Mm-hmm. Another thing that gets blamed on surge, which I think is a symptom of something entirely else, is advisors are often not confident enough in their value, maybe because they're not delivering enough value, that they have to pivot and say, hey, my value is that my schedule is flexible. My value, and we also say this, my value is that I'm a flat W backwards fee advisor, or I'm a fee-only advisor, or I'm a discount advisor, that they can't find enough value in the financial plan they provide, that they try to hide that with value of like ease of scheduling, or you can have my cell phone, or I'll respond to your emails within 10 seconds. And so we say that I can't find enough core value, therefore I have to get this like ancillary sizzle to make up for the lack of steak.
You be careful you're not playing too much of a short game there.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So if your response is, you know what, I have great client communication, I will respond to all of your emails within 24 hours, and you're thinking, especially if you're starting off, man, this is great, I could really do this, I'm only get 5 emails a day, right? I can easily do this. Great. Now, when you scale and grow to 100, 200 clients, how is that going to work with those expectations, right? What if you're sick? What if you're out of the office, right? Setting those expectations, it is a double-edged sword. Now, I'm not saying you don't get back to your clients in a timely manner. One of the things that I say, though, is email is mail, right? And when the postman comes, and I love the postman, it's fantastic. I like getting packages in my mail. I'm not knocking it. But when he comes to my office, I do not stop everything I'm doing, run forward as fast as I can to get the packages, dump out the giant green bag, start ripping up all of the mail, and then immediately writing letters back to every single person that I got something in the mail from. Why would I do that with email, which is electronic mail? So we got to look at these things and build a process for the long term.
Yeah, 100% you do. And all this goes back to being intentional. Now, again, if you say, hey, my business model is that I only need to have 15 ultra high net worth clients, then yeah, you can build a hyper reactive business model around that. But that would be, we're talking tens of millions of dollars net worth. That's a different model. So that's where, again, we want to step back and do business planning and say, hey, what is my aspirational practice? To your point, Micah, if my aspirational practice is 150 clients with $1 million each at a 1.5% fee, which would be a great practice, okay, I can't be just responding to 150 emails a day. I have to have a system in place. You will not get to your ideal practice if you're not living an ideal practice life now.
Yes, and if your goal is to have these aspirational clients of, $15 to $20 million, investable assets, et cetera, do you have any now?
Yeah, great point. Thank you. Yeah.
And if you don't, maybe that's not really your ideal client that you're going to be going for. So look at this realistically and say, how is that going to be set? Now, we know a guy actually, he went to one of our live events. He only works with higher net worth individuals, and he has a very short list of clients. But he even tells you, it says, look, now I've created this beast where I expect me to respond in a very short period of time. They have my cell phone. They call me on the weekends, right? I'm coming up when their grandson has a DUI. I'm helping them deal with it at 2 a.m. on Saturday morning. And okay, if he's happy with that service, that's one thing.
And charging accordingly.
And charging accordingly, but he's not. But he's created this beast. So again, play the long game. 10, 15, 20 years is going to pass. Set yourself up for success.
Another place, a symptom I see misdirected towards surge is meetings that are taking a very long time. So we'll hear from advisors and say, I can't do surge. My meetings are an hour 15, they're an hour 30, they're an hour 45, they're 2 hours. 2.5. I don't know if I've ever heard more than 2 hours. I'm sure someone will email us in and tell us. There's a couple of things going on here. One, it would still work in surge.
Yes.
By the way, even if
Yes.
let's say you're doing 2 hours meetings, and we'll talk about that in a second. That still works in surge.
Yes.
Great. Instead of doing 6 meetings a day, you do 3 meetings a day. What you're not doing is 1 2-hour meeting a day, or really what it ends up being is like 2 2-hour meetings a week.
Right.
But this is far too long. There's almost no scenario where a meeting should go longer than an hour. Almost no scenario.
And yes, there's some oddball ones we could think about, but 99.9%. And what happens here, and we see this because we get sent the videos, by the way, right?
Yes.
Advisors and guys, kudos to you for sending in those videos. That takes some gumption, right? To say, I really want to improve my game. I want someone else to critique, because that's what our job is, not to pat you on the back, but to critique and say, how can you improve this? So again, kudos to you guys for taking advantage of it and doing it. And one of the things that we'll notice in these longer ones, there's not more information being covered in a longer meeting. It's not all of a sudden more valuable. And you can see the body language of the client disconnecting in these meetings, and their eyes glossing over and whatnot. And so you're what you're doing is you're spending your time, and you're saying the more time I spend on this, the more valuable it is. Now, I have coaches, by the way, that I've hired that we have a 1 hour time slot, and they feel the need to fill a 1 hour time slot. I'm like, hey, hard stop. If we have ran through this and we've gotten value out of it in 30 minutes, I don't need to go the extra 30 and waste time. I got other things I want to do. Now, that's just my high, deep personality, but we got to respect the client's time and the information to be covered and not be setting up to waste that.
Yeah, and I'll give you an example of this. And again, anytime we give examples, it's just to provide context, right? Because no matter what number we talk about, someone's going to be way below that, and someone's going to be 100 times above that.
Amen.
But Mike, I recently had a client during surge, and the value of their privately held company stock had gone up dramatically. Their net worth had increased from $4 million to $40 million. Well, that creates
amazing.
It's amazing, and they're phenomenal people. That creates a lot of interesting estate planning opportunities.
Yes.
So we could have, in theory, spent hours, days, weeks, months talking about estate planning. But no, I'm always committed to an hour. So what did I do? I said, hey, there's sort of like 3 or 4 next steps. And let's talk on these briefly. Let's draw them out. Which one of these steps are you, if any, are you interested in pursuing next? I don't need to spend an hour talking about an ILET if they say, hey, I'm non-insurable or I hate the idea of life insurance. Cool. ILET, cross, not an option. Let's talk about giving money to charity. Ooh, I'm really passionate about that. Great. Let me draw that out real quick.
Yeah.
And I want you to think about that a little more. A 2-hour meeting almost always means you're either spread too thin or you're going too deep before you have agreement. Again, if a client says, hey, listen, I don't actually give money to charity, great, let's stop right there. Let's stop.
Hard stop.
Hard stop.
There's nothing else about lowering your estate when they don't want to give money to charity, right? Moving on to the next topic. And that's a really important thing. Another thing that I'll think about, I know we got to get action items, forgive me.
We're good.
Another thing that I love to be thinking about when I'm meeting with clients is also allowing them to think about it on their own time, not on my time. If I bring them into a meeting and I expect them to make full sets of decisions on estate planning that of things they haven't really thought of before in that session, I'm going to make my appointment longer. I don't think that's a good use of time. A very good use of time is saying, great, here's the 3 options. Okay, you don't like life insurance. You don't like charity. Fantastic. Here's how we're going to pay the taxes, right? Here's our other options to be things to be set up and outlining it for them. And I love to send them home. We'll set a follow-up appointment. send them home to think about it. And I'll send them a bomb, and I'm going to let them know, hey, I'm going to send you a video update. And these are some things I need you to think about, because very, very, very rarely can I meet with a client that has that complex situation that they know all the answers and all the people and all the roles they want to put in place. They want to think about it a little bit, because you know what? It's a $40 million decision.
Yeah, and by the way, if they're the kind of person that could make that many decisions, they're probably going to do it in 10 minutes anyway, because that's how they live their life. The other place this comes up in these longer meetings is you're not preparing for the meeting. For that example,
solid one.
I knew I've got an hour for this meeting. I've got very complicated topics to communicate. So in that case, I spent 90 minutes, 2 hours prepping for that meeting, not immediately before, right?
Sure.
The week before, prepping, because I say, boy, I've got a really complicated topic. We've got a lot of money in motion here. I've got to be so tight and so precise in my explanation, because again, I have an hour to communicate this.
You know, and drawing out an eyelid example, right? That's not something I do on a daily basis. Like drawing out tax buckets, drawing buckets, retirement income timelines, right? I live in that space. I can draw that very easily. Drawing out eyelids, I don't do all the time. So I'm sure in your 90 minutes, it was literally practice of you drawing what this looks like.
Yes, it literally was, because I'm like, how do I draw this on a piece of paper? Oh, that's right. It doesn't draw this way. It draws the other way. So let's talk about action items. This podcast is about action. Well, it's a little bit about us pontificating, but it's about action. And let's really look at this, Micah, we'll use our ski slope example. Hey, if you're currently on the bunny hill versus if you're on the green runs versus if you're on the double black diamonds, there's different action steps to take.
Yeah, so the biggest thing that you want to do is, where do you want your practice to be?
Yes.
Right? So again, going back to that business planning, and we're going to be working on a masterclass on that, which I'm super excited about.
Yep.
So on back to the business planning though, where do you want your business to be? Then who is running a business like that, and how do you move up the next level, right? Again, if I'm on the bunny hills, I'm looking at the black diamond saying, wow, that looks freaking amazing. I can't wait to ski the North Face, but that's not today. So, right, so how do I go back to the blue runs, right? How do I go back and slowly start elevating those levels and getting more confident?
Yep, and it goes with, Mike, you said earlier, it goes with the days that you're not going to meet with clients. It goes with setting the times when you are going to meet with clients. It goes to being prepared for those meeting lengths. There's ways to turn that up. And it also goes with just being aware. I've definitely had times where I stepped on the double black diamond run. I realized I cannot be on this run. I need to go back a couple of runs. Another action item that comes to mind, Mike, as you mentioned, we are now doing master classes. We did the estate planning master class, which is still available. You can get that on the Perfect RIA website. We're working on a business planning master class, a surge meeting master class. If that's something you're interested in, if that's something you have suggestions, you say, I really would love for you to cover X, Y, or Z, go ahead and send an email to lifestyle@theperfectria, and we will be glad to incorporate that.
Third action item that I'm going to say with this is, in order for these to be successful, regardless of what we talked about, it comes with a successful process. Now, sometimes we get overcomplicate the hell out of processes, right? It's a simple one-pager that says, great, I'm going to have surge meetings. That means I need to have a streamlined process for my client prep. Great. What information am I going to need in this surge, right? Yeah. Who on the team is going to pull together? What do I want in my surge packets, right? What are the documentations? When am I going to review it, right? You can make this process into 4 or 5 steps and have your team empowered to do this. And again, that's another mistake I see in surge is someone comes out of that, they try to jump on a double black diamond, and they don't actually have their team prepped to support them in that manner.
I love it. I love it. Well, a special thank you to all of the Micah, it's got to be 1,000+ advisors who have come to us and said, hey, I implemented surge meetings, and it has made an incredible difference in my practice. Thank you to all of those advisors who took that leap of faith.
Love it.
And for those of you that haven't, take the leap of faith, but take it carefully and take it smart.
Amen. And until next time, happy planning.
Happy planning.
Hold on before we go. Something that you need to know. This isn't tax, legal, or investment advice. That isn't our intent. Information designed to change lives. Financial planning can make you thrive. Start today, don't think twice. Be a better husband, father, mother, and